So it's recording.
Mm-hmm. You did that right.
Okay, and then we're going to go live now.
All right. Well, that wasn't a struggle at all.
It's still going live. I got to bring it up on our Facebook page, though.
Yeah. Quality snort right there.
Okay, I think we are live.
With the notification here so I can go on.
Yeah.
I get notified in this, I think. Some quality behind the scenes talk right here.
Yep, there we are.
Yep.
Yep, we're live.
All right. Well, how come I don't get a notification on my Facebook then?
I go right into the
I should go
talking about fucking technology. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, you did a good job of that today.
I am the queen of fucking technology, let me tell you. I got McClellan bad. McClellan got me bad today.
Push the volume down. All right, so okay, well, I think this is up now.
Yeah, there's three people watching.
Wow, well, yeah. Sorry about the delay, but we had Fincher technical difficulties, unfortunately. What a surprise! Somebody wearing a Packers shirt would fuck up on a Sunday. What a surprise! Wow. Okay. Well, good to see you too, Mary. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Oh, Jen's watching. Hey, Jen.
Hi, Jen. I hope Jen appreciated the shout out in the podcaster.
He did. Did you see a bug? Oh my God, Jen. Yeah, I did. Yeah, a total bug. McClellan got me good today because I was like saying bad things about him. And funny story. So my MacBook is like 10 years old. And just pause for a second. How many of y'all are using a 10-year-old piece of technology that still kind of legit works? No? I am. Anyway, my MacBook is called McClellan because occasionally, I shouldn't say occasionally, it does get slow. And I'm pretty sure it's backstabbing me too and saying mean things about me. But there's some times when I it'll be fine for like a week, and then I have to keep it plugged in all the time now because if the battery dies, then that's it. That is the equivalent to the MacBook seeing a bug right there.
See, I thought that your McClellan math skills had kind of trickled its way into your MacBook itself.
It did.
And that was a problem.
It did.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what the problem was. So
yeah.
Anyway, so here we are. How are you? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
NFL opening day. How about that, huh? Who do your Packers play? They're at Minnesota, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the Vikings. Yeah.
That'd be a pretty good game, probably.
But I am watching the Patriots game today.
You are watching the Patriots game, as every good American should be watching the Patriots game as they take on the Miami Dolphins in Foxborough, which I should be at right now. But unfortunately, this is virus thing. And instead of me drinking in the parking lot right now like I should be, I'm sitting on my deck. I am still smoking my victory cigar, though.
Mm-hmm. Jen said, or Christopher said, I thought you were a Pats fan. I am a Pats fan. I'm also I am a Pats fan. I'm also a Packers fan too.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
About the Packers.
I think when Rodgers leaves, I might be.
I think he's going to be gone at the end of the year. I think he's out. I think this is going to be the last year for Rodgers.
I think it is, yeah.
I mean, he just turned 60, so how long is he going to play for? See, I get to say this now because my quarterback's not 100 years old anymore, so I can say these things now. I can totally justify now.
If he's 60, then I'm fucking 63.
Oh, that's right. Nothing wrong with being 63. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Jen said, McClellan the laptop. Yep. Oh,
yeah, she's
Andrea's watching too.
It was pretty fun. Hi, Andrea. It was pretty funny at 10 o'clock signing on and then watching Mary screw up the technology.
Yeah.
You want to talk about hearing someone swear for a while. There was some quality expletives for that, but we did a half an hour, 45 minutes worth of rehashing. So here we are.
Yeah. Felt like Pope at Manassas there. I went into it all confident and then I got effed.
Yeah, definitely.
God, I got effed by McClellan.
But that's what you call a special order 191 right there.
It certainly was. I'm like, I got this, and McClellan was like, nope.
Okay, Andrea's here, so we can start. She says we can begin, so that's good.
Maybe. Thank you.
Andrea, speaking of green, she's a huge Celtic fan. I discovered over the week. Do you know this?
I'm actually,
big Larry Bird fan.
I don't watch a lot of basketball, but I have to say, I've like the Celtics are my team. And when I did see I got to see the Toronto Raptors about 12 years ago when they played the Celtics, and I was with two people that were like cheering for the Raptors, and I was like, go Celtics.
Yeah, the second the Celtics beat Toronto the other night, the first thing I did was tweet at Justin Trudeau because he's been running his mouth about the Raptors for the last series, so I had to let him have it.
Yeah, but True Daddy has such nice hair, though.
Yeah, he does. He's not quite hair, but getting there. Anyway.
He's close to Oliver Otis Howard hair. Best hair in the Civil War right there is Oliver Otis Howard.
Milroy hair, too.
Yeah, I think Howard.
Milroy's hair looked good.
Howard and Patrick Claiborne have the best Civil War hair.
But Milroy, because he was running so fast, his hair was blowing in the wind like Fabio as he was running from Winchester. So
Ian from the UK is
F.
watching.
Larry.
F. Larry. Ian from the UK is watching. Hello. And Jen, isn't that usually how it goes in Colin? Yeah, pretty much.
Andrea's actually a stupid Laker fan and she loves Magic Johnson. I like Magic Johnson. He is. He's one of the best. Is he Larry Bird? No, he's not Larry Bird, but he's a good player though. I'll give him his due. Anyway.
Here, I'm going to do this on behalf of Andrea.
You just said you were a Celtic. Oh, God. You are an enigma. You are an absolute enigma. I'm telling you. So
I am a Celtics fan, but yeah.
So
Jen says the Bears as McClellan. Occasional flashes of talent and skill, but mostly you just facepalm and shake your head at them. That's perfect.
Wow.
Good.
Wait, it's funny. So we can actually get on the subject of the podcast the other day. We had a lot of good ideas. We tried to keep it limited, but we must have had, we have 20 at one point?
So I actually wrote some stuff down that we had talked about like after the show. So we had Sheridan as the Cowboys, but then I think we ended up changing, we changed Sheridan to McClellan for the Cowboys, but I like Jen's like Bears pick too. Oh, my other friend Jen is watching us too. Andrea, I love you, Mary. I love you too.
Yeah, because you flipped me off with the Bird, Larry Bird. You gave me a burb about Bird. That's what you just did right there. But so,
Jen, I put a lot of thought to that one.
Yeah, she's certainly. Well, we appreciate the tips on that one. But I thought it was a fun. I thought it was a fun podcast. I thought it was. I thought it was fun to try because we taken between the curtain at the Civil War Breakfast Club headquarters, talk about the ideas we had. We had a whole bunch of them. Yeah. We kind of limited it to a few. What I thought was fun too was just kind of like kicking the ideas around and just kind of winging it, you know, and I thought that some of the background stuff was really, really good. I thought. Yeah, that was good. You did good with that. You did, I knew you would, but I just thought it was funny. With some of the responses you had. Well, thank you very much. I'll do it again,
It was fun to kind of look at it that way because you have to think about the person, right? Like, I liked your pick for the Patriots and really tying it in with Belichick because Belichick is completely against the media like Sherman was. And just the fact that he quotes Sherman sometimes to the players in the locker room and all that. He's just got that same attitude as Sherman did too. And then I think, like, Farragut for the Navy.
See, I was surprised. See, I wasn't trying to like stump you on that.
Yeah.
But Farragut is one that not a lot of people study about. The Navy kind of gets a raw deal in the Civil War a little bit.
The Navy definitely does. And that's one reason why I enjoyed Donald Miller's book about the Vicksburg campaign.
Right.
It was like, the title is How Grant basically it seems like it's focused on Grant from the title, but he talks a lot about the Navy and he gives them the love that they desperately need because the Navy factored into that victory as much as Grant did. Like, it was a joint effort, infantry and Navy working together, and cavalry too. Like, all three are working together on that victory.
So when we were going with these names, and I said Farragut, I mean, it was your first one, so I knew I could have said anybody. You were going to say Packers. I mean, it was going to happen.
No.
I could. Oh, come on! I could have said anybody. You would have said Packers, but you did. When I said Farragut, you said, and you Pavlovianly said Packers. You backed it up though. You did with some solid rationale.
And I schooled you.
You did.
War of 1812. You were like,
did.
You're wrong, and I'm like,
okay. The guy was born in 1801. And you said that he was in the War of 1812.
And he was.
Using my math skills, my McClellan-Mary math, that's 11 years. And I'm thinking, how many 11-year-old people are fighting, right? But hey, Fincher, you delivered. I'll be honest, you had it.
Jen's got my back here. I was surprised by Farragut as a choice, but it really worked.
It actually did work. And I think of course she's going to back you on that. But you know what, though? I think all the ones we had actually did work, and it was a fun exercise because it was a way to kind of look at the strengths and weaknesses of the generals. Admittedly, we kind of went into this. It was a football theme one for the football, but it was a way, at least for me, to have fun with the teams that I don't like.
Oh, same here.
Right, and the teams that we do like, and I thought it was pretty funny. I did like the Farragut one though, Vicksburg. I don't disagree with the Vicksburg better than Gettysburg. Yep. Andrea's right. I mean, she is. Yep. But we actually talked about that. If Andrea had watched the podcast, which she probably didn't, but if she did,
you're so mean to her.
I'm just bitter about the Larry Bird thing. I'm not over that yet, But fight me. but
Andrea, I got your back, girl.
Oh God. But what I was saying was basically it was looking at the strengths and weaknesses of the people, and it was a fun study to look into. Yeah. I thought, because it just kind of gave us some insight into drawing correlations. Plus, it's a fun way, it's a fun way to kind of personify, which is what we really want to do in the podcast, is going through each of these people and not seeing them as just the names on a spreadsheet or names on a book, but kind of, exactly. And then finding out what these guys are all about. So it was definitely a fun exercise. And I thought all the ones we came up with were really good. I thought we had some good valid points on all of them.
We did.
You did pull a Farragut one deep. I don't know where you came up with that, but that was solid.
I just Farragut's always been one of my favorite Civil War figures. I remember seeing that picture of him when I was 6, where he's like this, just standing there. And I'm like, that man is confident. Where you said that it looked like he just picked $20 up off the floor and,
Have you ever found money on the floor and you stick in your pocket and you stand and look around like no one saw you? That's the look that Farragut had in the pic. The first thing I thought of in that picture was that.
Yeah. And he just has this commanding presence, which reminds me of how Rogers is. But it's funny because I don't think Rogers is arrogant like Farragut was. But I just thought one of the oldest NFL teams. He's one of the older dudes in the Civil War, and he's got damn the torpedoes kind of thing. And he just went into everything, full on,
Yeah, he did win one good battle, kind of like Rogers. He did win one, so yeah. So there was some good.
One thing I didn't reference. He Hail Married a few things.
Oh, look at you, huh?
Yeah.
Look at you there. No, but he was good though. What were the other ones we had? We had I liked the Grant one.
Yeah, the Grant
with the
49ers
Niners
was really good. But the other thing too that I didn't mention in the podcast is the only time that the Bengals have been in the Super Bowl, they lost against the 49ers. Bragg lost against Grant at Chattanooga.
Yeah. So you had some valid. There was a method behind the madness, I think, and
completely.
And if we'd spent more time kind of going through and really focusing on it, we could have had some different people too. But we got a lot of good suggestions though. Somebody, I don't know who the hell it was. Somebody mentioned having Butler be with the Jets and doing the whole Benny and the Jets thing. Yeah. And I was like, because that would have been a good one. Good. That was either on Twitter or Instagram. It was somebody mentioned it somewhere, but that was a good one. I'm gonna tip my Brett Terhune emotional support beer on that one, because that was a good one, because that was well played. Whoever said that.
That was.
But it was it was good, I thought, because it was creative, and there was some good ones too. But like any of these things, we could have picked one. We could have gone for hours on this.
Oh yeah,
We try to keep it around an hour or so.
And like I said, I wrote some stuff down when we were talking after. We had Warren for the Dolphins.
He'd be a good one for the Dolphins. And you you can probably make a case for anybody. I did have fun with the Pope and the Jets one though, because of how much my disdain for everything New York Jets is.
Yeah, and too, like, I mean, Pope was like, well, like I said, he's like, he thinks he's king shit of fuck mountain when he comes to the Eastern Theater, and it's like, no, dude, actually, you're not.
I've spent so much time looking for that mountain on Google Earth, and I can't find it, by the way. But if there is a fuck mountain, I would hope that there is a king shit somewhere. That'd be a cool job. Imagine that. Can you imagine having that on your resume? Well, my last job I was king shit at fuck mountain. You know. But Bengals suck. Al is watching. Hi, Al. Yep. How are you?
Hey,
Al is the guru for the fantastic Civil War Lampoon Facebook page. So definitely check that out.
Andrea, oh my fucking god, the Bengals suck.
The good thing about Andrea is that the bad thing is she beats around the bush too much. She just needs to be a little more direct with what it is. But she's from Cincinnati, so she's got a Bengals thing to that. I think Burrow is going to be pretty good. I think he's going to be halfway decent. I don't think the Bengals are as bad as people think they are. I actually went to Cincinnati last December, the Queen City, and I loved it. I thought that Cincinnati. If you've ever been to Cincinnati, definitely go.
Oh, actually, I love Cincinnati. I was there. I think last May. Look at me, like I slip in Claiborne facts like I do Howard. When Claiborne first came to the US,
you like Howard? I didn't know that.
I do. I love Howard. I love that failure so much. It's amazing. He's not a failure. When Claiborne first came to the United States from Ireland, he actually lived in Cincinnati for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only reason he moved to Arkansas was because this guy that he was working for as a pharmacist said, I'm looking to open a pharmacy in Arkansas, which seems like completely random. And that's why Claiborne moved to Arkansas.
But it's a good time. Cincinnati's a cool city. We stayed in Covington, Kentucky, which is right over the river there. And there's a place called Main Strauss, which is all bars.
Oh.
And boy, get himself in trouble now on Main Strauss. The bourbon and the cigars, that was great. So so props. We were in, I know we're digressing a little bit, but when I was in Cincinnati, we were there in December, and they have this thing called SantaCon, and Andrea knows what I'm talking about with this, where apparently everyone in the city dresses up as Santa Claus and goes to the bars, and we didn't know about it until we went. So me and our friend Bill were sitting there at a bar. We opened at like 11 in the morning, so we were there at 11:01. And we were the only ones there, and we're drinking, having a good time. And finally, the beers are starting to kick in a little bit. And now it's like 1 o'clock, and we turn around, and everyone is Santa Claus. It's like, Bill, where the everyone. And so he and I were both thinking this, but we didn't want to say it. So we're like, we go to the bartender and go, so what's going on with the Santa Claus? He explained the whole SantaCon thing. And it was pretty funny, but everybody, so we went to all the bars, and everyone was dressed as Santa Claus. But Cincinnati's a fun city. But what are some of the ones that we had in our podcast that we probably could have had? There was probably a whole bunch of them. We had Sherman as the Patriots. We had Pope as the Jets. We had Grant as the Niners. We had Bragg as Cincinnati.
Hood as the Browns. Meade was the Bears, actually.
Yeah, we had a bunch. We had a whole bunch of ones.
Andrea just said, I still have to get to Fort Thomas to see George Henry Thomas's statue. Andrea, just so you know, look who's with me right now.
That mug rocks. Get it?
Oh, you're so smart.
I'm just happy to be part of the team. I'm sorry, we had a whole bunch, and we definitely had fun with it.
Yeah.
But you could make a case for any of these guys. But what were some of the other ones we had? We had McClellan as one of them, didn't we?
We did. Actually, we changed McClellan. We had him as the Cowboys instead of Sheridan. The Cowboys, like arrogant. Yeah, we were back and forth with that. I had Howard as the Saints because the Christian general, but also talk about getting fucked over. Yeah,
the Saints would have been. That they got job in that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, they would have got killed by the Patriots that Super Bowl too, realistically. So it wouldn't have mattered. But
Jen said I wouldn't make poor Meade as the Bears. Yeah, I feel bad because Meade is my favorite Eastern Theater commander.
Well, let's draw a comparison of Meade and the Bears. Well, let's just do this like we were doing the other night. So so I give you Meade, right?
Yeah.
In the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to assume you know something about the Bears. What are some of the comparisons we can make with Meade and the Bears?
Like, there's a lot of potential, but nobody sees it. I guess I don't know, like something like that.
I mean, you see, Meade had success. You know, I guess here's the thing: the Bears are one of those blue bloods of the NFL, kind of like the Packers, right?
Yeah.
Where they had a lot. Meade had a lot of success early when he first took over as the commander of the Army of the Potomac.
Yep.
And then he kind of fizzled after that, right?
Well, I think too that some of he gets overshadowed by Grant a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I love U.S. Grant. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes I'm just like, that dude is overshadowing Meade. And the one thing that really bothers me, and I actually put this as a PSA one time on my own, like my personal Facebook, I said, PSA, Meade didn't fucking get fired.
Well, people think he got fired with Grant when he's in 1864.
How do you think he get fired? Like, why is he still there then in 1865? Like, what, did he just stick around? Or he's like, I'm not going.
See, Mary, I'm starting to think people like on Twitter don't always know what they're talking about. I'm starting to think that.
No,
I know. It's one of those epiphanies that I had.
Right.
But I think he had that success obviously at Gettysburg, and you take some shots at him about the whole retreat thing. But anybody who actually knows and studies the retreat, you realize that Meade really didn't screw up the retreat.
No, he didn't.
I mean, he thought that Lee was going to set up a defense in the Blue Mountains and wait for them to come. It would have been a Pickett's charge in reverse, and he just didn't know. I mean, like we said before, the internet is so bad in southern Pennsylvania that he couldn't, his Google Earth, and he couldn't tell where these people were. He probably had Sprint. That was the problem.
But the thing with Meade too, and people criticize him for this, is Meade knew how to he knew his commanders. He, put the ones that he trusted in charge. I don't fault him for putting Hancock in charge at all, even though it meant my boy gets kind of like whatever on the battlefield.
Buford had a lot to do with that.
Oh, he did. I know.
He wrote that John Deere letter, to headquarters and said, no one's in charge,
Meanwhile, Howard is like, he's saying something like, this is a fine piece of ass. We need to be here.
You got this, see, that's the problem. I don't get to read the internal battle reports like you have, and these quotes that they have. I mean, the fine piece of ass you need to be, that's serious stuff right there.
That's legit what he wrote to me.
That's like, you go to the Army, you go to the Library of Congress and read these notes. And I need to start doing that because the stuff you come up with is just legit internal. This is the stuff you get. This is the real good stuff you get here.
He wrote to me, George, this is a fine piece of ass here in Pennsylvania, and we got to hold it. Love, OO.
Christian general, huh?
Yeah, right?
Anyway.
Poor Howard. Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, so Meade, so he, like the Bears had some great success. If somebody would have told childhood Darren that after the Bears beat my Patriots in the Super Bowl 20, Super Bowl XX after Hooker, the 20th core, XXX. But I mean, they would have, if you think about it, he would have, if someone told me that the Bears would not win a Super Bowl again after that year when they were so good, it's just mind numbing because they should have gone on a run. In Meade, if someone said that was Gettysburg was going to be his high point, right? At least on a top level look, he did a lot of good things after that. I realized that. So
he did. I think he just gets overshadowed by Grant. There's a really good Meade biography called Searching for George Gordon Meade. It's written by Tom Huntington, and it is it's unique in the sense that so Huntington went to visit all these sites that Meade was at,
right?
Including during the Mexican War and all that. So he writes about what they're like now, and then he talks about that part of Meade's life. So it's really interesting. The writing is really accessible, and it really I knew Meade's always been my boy for as long as I can remember, but reading that biography, it's just wow, this guy, people need to know more about him. It's like Howard. If you
you're definitely You're definitely in the Tim Smith school of loving George Meade. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah.
Andrea says, what about Crazy Uncle Dan?
Oh,
Sickles is one. See, Sickles is one. It's a good one, too. See,
Jen needs to get in on this one because Sickles, she
here's the deal with Sickles. I like Sickles. I
do
always
too.
have. And I think he gets a bad rap.
Yep.
Now, going back to Meade real quick, if Gelzo had a choice in this, he would probably pick Meade as the Jets, probably.
Oh, probably.
Right?
Welzel just shits all over Meade, like, God.
But Sickles, we Sickles is what we debated about. We kind of came here. Do you want me to tell a story about Sickles? What you came up with? Or you want me to do this one?
No, you can do
with
it.
Washington.
Yeah.
So Mary's a very mean-spirited person. So she picked Washington for Sickles because Theismann got his leg destroyed like Sickles did. I thought that was very mean. And so and very controversial, right? But Joe Theismann, he got his leg broken on national television and he never played again. And so there's that correlation. But I think the controversy, the Washington, we probably should have done Sickles as Washington. I think in hindsight we probably should have done that. You're right about that one. But very mean spirited though. I thought it was very harsh. Mm-hmm. Okay.
How many times have I done that in the podcast? You keep count. Jen said, it is Searching for George Gord Meade. I have that book, Mary's Fault.
Mary's Fault. Yeah. Wow. Look at that, huh? Wow. I don't know what to say.
Imagine me book enabling, right?
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah. I got a whole stack of books over here from Amazon, courtesy of Goderich, Ontario.
Well, look at you with how many books did I have arrived this week that were like?
You got a couple. You're in the booth thing. You're getting in the JW booth. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, I've always been into booth. Like ever since I was like 6 years old, I got into the same time as Lincoln.
No, same thing. We'll do, and we're going to do a podcast on John Wilkes Booth, and maybe we'll have a cool guest on too.
Yeah, I think we definitely will.
It's not going to be him, so don't get excited. Sorry, Finest Bates. He's not around anymore. Sorry.
Nope, he's not. Jen, surprising, I know. Oh, Jen says it does kind of fit though. Poor Sickles.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk about Sickles real quick because, I mean, and this goes back to Meade, if you really think about it, is, Sickles gets a lot of shit, and he does. But again, people don't realize is on the 2nd of July, 1863, Meade didn't know if they were fighting defense or offense.
Exactly.
At that time.
And the orders that he gave Sickles were basically, he wrote practicable in those orders to him, to all of his generals, if you deem it practical, like basically stay in your position, but if you see something else, then go. I think what upset Meade was the fact he had no idea. Like Sickles didn't let him know what he was doing, and he goes out in the field and there's Sickles fucking eating peaches in the peach orchard. Hey dude, what's up? You moved your whole division. Wonderful. Good for you.
So you started early today, huh? Okay. But again, I think he didn't know they were going to fight defense or offense, and he basically but to defend Meade though, he gets the battlefield. He didn't see the battlefield until that morning.
Exactly.
On real life.
Exactly.
So he didn't know if they were going to fight offense or defense. Sickles got that really shitty position, just north of Little Round Top in that valley. And if they were to fight a northern battle, they needed the artillery plateau. And I think, people disagree with this, but I think Chancellorsville was in Sickles' head the whole time. It had to have been.
I think it was too, and I think it was also in Howard's head too. Like the ghost of Chancellorsville was in both their heads. They get such a bad rap for that battle.
$5 says Booth had a tiny pecker.
That's awesome.
I don't know.
God.
He did pretty well for himself with that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe so.
Andrea and Jen are what make these Facebook lives. I swear.
That'd be a Dick Semper Tyrannis then, right?
Dick Semper Tyrannis.
Oh God. But I think knowing they were going to an offensive type potential, he needed to find that opportunity. He needed to be out there. In his defense, in Sickles' defense, okay?
Yeah.
He tried to get clarification from Meade many times.
He did, yeah. And Meade, communication is just fucked.
And Meade did tell him he did have the ability to adjust his line.
Yep.
Now, he didn't think he was going to march on Richmond, admittedly, but I think he thought that he was going to be in a better situation. And people look at Sickles and he got his core wrecked. There's no question he did.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think he did that because he thought that was the best situation at the time.
Yeah, it was.
And I think there's a lot of opportunities. Here's the thing with this, okay? We've had 150 friggin' 7 years to kind of go through this. There's been 1 million books written about it. You know, this stuff happened in real time.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and we talk about Abner Small's diary, The Road to Richmond. I mentioned that before, but where he talks about how anybody who says the Civil War was fought in the panorama is basically full of shit. You knew 10 feet in front of you, 10 feet to the left, 10 feet to the right. That was it. And this includes the generals too. They, especially Meade, who gets there, you know, at night and doesn't know what the situation is. He doesn't know. They talk about Lee not knowing what was going on because of Jeb Stuart, but the Union didn't know what the hell was going on. They were all fighting in the dark, literally and figuratively.
Exactly. And, you know, like Meade is staying back at Pipe Creek because he sent out that circular, which I think was a brilliant decision he made.
Yeah.
To stay back there just in case. The thing with Meade is he could think 2 steps ahead, which is something I don't think that Lee could do. And now people who like Lee are going to be shitting all over me for that. But I think that's why Meade is one of the most talented generals that the Union Army had. He was so forward thinking, but people see it as him like somehow being a bad thing. They see it as like, oh, he was like passive.
What are you talking about?
Because he
Meade?
Yeah.
I think you said Lee.
No, Meade.
I think you said Lee.
I said.
What did he change teams again? No, Al made a point. He's right. You know, he thought the right flank had attack possibilities, and he absolutely did. He was talked out of it, and that's the case. That was people assume that was always going to be a defensive battle. On speaking of Gettysburg from day one, and it really wasn't.
No.
It really wasn't. And he told his generals to be ready for an offensive or defensive attack.
Exactly.
And now we know now it was all defense, but at the time they didn't know. And if you're going to be potentially fighting an offensive potential, a battle, you can't be. You've been there. You know how that ground was that Sickles was on.
Yep.
You simply could not possibly be in that position where you had trees in front of you, within rocks. You were in a valley. You couldn't set up artillery.
Yep.
If he would have been in a bad situation. And you got to look at the time. Lee definitely had a tiny pecker. Oh, okay.
Oh, he did. Yeah. I mean, I'll put it out here. Like, I think Lee is.
Have you noticed a
fucking
theme
overrated?
Have you noticed a theme with Andrea Pike's comments lately?
I 100% agree with her. She's like, she and Jen are like my soul sisters of the Civil War.
Oh, they're awesome. Andrea's
yeah,
awesome
they are.
too.
Yeah. No, they both are.
You know.
Possibly even Yes. Yes.
Enough about Cushing.
As far as the Confederacy go, I think their 2 most talented generals were Albert Sidney Johnston and Patrick Cleburne, right there. And Robert E. B. is harassing me.
Yeah, Battle of Bee Ridge 3.0. But I think you're right though. And we probably should have done an Albert Sidney Johnston football one. Who
would you pick for Albert Sidney Johnston, Darren?
I would have to pick. See, I would probably put him with somebody who really started off really, really well at the beginning, and it was cut short, you know, and just disappeared. So that's a tough one though, because you could probably go. It would have to be a team that's won early. But see, I don't know. That's a tough one because most of the teams that basically had success early had success later, or they were just incompetent. And I don't think he was incompetent too. Like obviously the Jets, you know, had the Super Bowl early, but they're a complete mess, so you couldn't put them with that.
No.
I don't know. I don't know if there is a comparison for Johnston, to be
honest.
Would
he be the Dolphins though?
You know what? That's it. It's the Dolphins, because they had the perfect season back in '72.
And Dan Marino.
He's overrated. But it's okay.
I know. Yeah.
But all right, we'll go with the Dolphins on that one. I remember the pit stop story at Shiloh. Yes, I remember. Oh gosh, I don't know if she wants. I'll let her tell that one. Let's just say it was quite a reliefful spot for her kids.
I think Andrea needs to join us for one of these lives sometime.
We should.
Yeah, Andrea and Jen too. I think we need to have the 2 of them on with us.
Atlanta 28-3, my favorite two numbers of all time, 28-3, and they love it. They love it when I wore that Pats jersey down in Atlanta that time. That was a good time.
Oh, you should have heard me during that game. Like, I thought Atlanta had it, and then like myself, like I have a Super Bowl party every year, and I invite like usually a lot of people come for it, and there was a lot at this particular one. And there was a few of us just upstairs. Everybody else was downstairs, I don't know, playing Rock Band or something, because the game they felt it was boring, and they were like, oh yeah, Atlanta's got this. And then when the Pats came back, at the top of my lungs, I swear everybody, like right through to New England, heard me, fuck that shit. And then I just hear one of my friends say, oh, Brady just got a touchdown. She's pissed.
And as you're saying this with your Patriots hat on, makes it so much fun.
I know, right?
I mean, it just does. That whole experience was halftime of that show was that the Lady Gaga one? I think. Well, so the Pats were getting completely astroglided in that game. Yep. I mean, it wasn't even close, right? So it's halftime. It's like 21-3, and I'm like, I'm the little whiny brat I am with the Patriots. I'm like, I'm going upstairs. So I went upstairs. Tattoo diva bitch, right? And so I went upstairs, and there was a show on TV at the time called Mercy Street. Okay, and it was a great Civil War show, a medical show, and I watched that. And so I went upstairs to my room, and I watched. It just lined. I wasn't going to watch the halftime show, so I went upstairs, and that was on. Like it was like 8:00 and perfect timing. So I watched Mercy Street for an hour, and then that ended. And I put the TV on and was like, okay, now it's 28-10, 28-12. And then I couldn't move. So I'm like, I'm stuck up here watching this now. And I had people over too, and they were downstairs. You got to come down. I'm like, no, now they're doing well. I got to stay right here and watch it. And they came back and won. And they won that game. And I was more relieved and laughing than happy when they won, because it was just so funny. It was perfect.
Jen said, I was making up new swear words during that one, but not for the same reasons the Patriots fans were. Yeah, and then like everybody comes back upstairs because they can hear me. And someone was like, how do you feel about this? And I just said, like, fuck that noise.
But now you've seen the light. Now you're on the good graces.
I am.
Now.
Yeah, I am.
That was a good game though. And
it was like, looking at it from a game perspective, it was actually
it was a great battle. Second half anyway. At least
it was
the
like
first
Shiloh.
It was.
You think they're gonna get fucked, and then all of a sudden it's like boom.
But I mean, but when I went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, walking the streets of Atlanta with that 28-3 T-shirt on, holy God, you would have thought some of the comments I got, and some of the glares I got. I mean, I don't care, but
it must have been the equivalent to announcing Howard is your favorite general on Twitter.
It wasn't that bad.
That was bad.
What are some other people we can come up with for the correlation?
So we had Beauregard is the Bills.
Yes, because we call, instead of Beauregard, we call him Beauregard, because it's just easy and crazy not to.
Yeah. And
the Bills have their fans, if you've been to Buffalo, it's a great place to watch a game. They're definitely the beer drinking type. Although, and Beauregard really had some success, but not really. I mean,
but the problem with him too is like Jefferson Davis was a micromanager, and he was also like, he had to like you as a person. For some reason, he liked Braxton Bragg. And that's why he kept him in charge.
I'm not sure what Bragg did. He must have had pictures of Vereen or Davis or something, because I don't know what.
Because what happened after Chickamauga with the all the generals signing the "You suck, you need to go" petition,
which is what they called it. It's literally
"You suck, you need to go," Bragg, and then Davis coming all the way to Chattanooga and having this okay guys, we're gonna talk about all this stuff, and the generals literally they just shit all over Bragg during this meeting and say he sucks. He has to go, this, and this. And Davis is like, okay, get the fuck out of the room. And then he looks at Bragg and he's like, okay, you can stay. Don't worry, dude. I got your back. By the way, I like your dog Braxy. He's cute.
You can make you can sort of draw a correlation in that regard a little bit to McClellan, though, because everybody wanted him gone.
Yep.
And we'll talk about this in the Maryland campaign. Teaser for the next podcast. We're going to be talking Maryland, and this will come up. But everyone except Lincoln wanted McClellan gone. All of them. And Lincoln stood by him. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing because they got rid of him 2 weeks later. But I mean,
Lincoln Lincoln regarding the generals, like that was a learning curve for him, and he actually said to Hooker at one point, and I'm paraphrasing, well, I gave McClellan 50,000 chances, I'll give you another one too. And Hooker's like, fuck that, I don't want another one. Andrea just said Pickett.
Yeah, Pickett's another good one.
Brag for the free entertainment. Yeah, Bragg's fucking entertaining.
That's why they kept Butterfield around. No question about that. Like, Butterfield had the best parties.
Bragg at Chattanooga is like fucking Dallas, like soap opera level. Just there's more drama in that. But Andrea would like to know who we would pick for Pickett.
What do you think? I'll put this one on you.
God. See, Pickett was he was kind of like the kid in the class. It's like all the time.
Well, anybody who's on this Facebook Live right now, what do you think? Who do you think is a good NFL comparison to George Pickett?
Yeah. Oh, like
that's a tough one though.
He's not as bad as the Browns, but then he does like stupid shit.
You know what he is? He's showboaty. Yes. He had menial success. He screwed up at the biggest moment. He's the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes.
That's who he is. That's who he is. Exactly who he is.
He's the Falcon.
Okay. You know, and like I said many times, you can't eat shad without 5 forks.
Yeah. That is the most like. I laugh so hard at that story where he's like, put someone incompetent in charge. He's like, I'm gonna go to a fucking shad bake, and he fucks off, and he can't hear the cannons firing, and he comes back and he's like, oh. We lost.
Well, the best one was Lee had thought he got rid of Pickett after 5 forks.
Yeah. And
like a week later, he rides by him on a horse. And Lee goes, what is that guy still doing with this army? It just goes to show that everything, a lot of this is flying by the seat of their pants. A lot of it was.
Oh, yeah. It's so comedic.
It is. And Andrea, love that joke. Thank you for the support, Andrea. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Hi, Andrea.
I haven't laughed so that hard since her Magic Johnson comments on Facebook this week.
Yeah, Jen, that's a tough one.
But I take it with the Falcons. I can go with that. That's a good one. Yep. I think.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty solid one.
The other one we had for the Falcons too on the Union side was Hooker.
Yeah.
Like Hooker, yeah. I mean, I have to say, I am Team Hooker. I think he's underrated, and people just look at him getting concussed at Chancellorsville. But what they don't recognize about Hooker is the fact that after Fredericksburg, he took a very, very demoralized Army of the Potomac, and he whipped them into shape. Like, he brings out the Corps insignia. He gets a better intelligence gathering system. Yep.
11th Corps.
Yep, 11th Corps. And he also, gets them their supplies become much better managed and all that. Like, he whips them into shape. And you think about it, Meade takes charge of the AOP, 72 hours before Gettysburg. Meade is fighting with the Army of the Potomac that belonged to General Hooker.
Yeah.
And I really consider it a Meade-Hooker victory, because there's no time for Meade to make any changes at all, and for the men to get accustomed to him as a commander. But their morale was so raised because of Hooker.
But that's a good point you're making, the correlation, because you think about think of the situation. Let's compare Gettysburg with Meade and McClellan with Maryland for a second, right? And I know we'll talk about this later. Meade takes over an established Army of the Potomac. He doesn't know where they are. Hooker kept all that card to himself. But when he brought them all together, he had 7 corps of solid military trained army. Yep. When McClellan took over for Pope again in 1862, on September 2nd, 1862, the 4th, it's no 2nd, doesn't matter, but whatever it was, he takes over. That army was a mess at the time.
It was a complete mess.
So McClellan, and I'm going to give him some props on this one, okay? McClellan took over a mess of an army, took over 3 armies, Army of Virginia, the North Carolina Expeditionary Force, another word, 3-syllable word I can't say, under Burnside, and what's left of the Army of the Potomac. So that army was demoralized. It was a complete mess.
Yep.
And he pulled them all together and was able to get victory at Antietam, which is kind of questionable. But again, Meade had an established army. And you wonder what would have happened if Gettysburg had happened previously with McClellan when he took over the mess that Pope left him.
Oh my God, that would have been a fucking shit show.
With all the political infighting that what was going on between Halleck and Stanton and Gideon Wells and Lincoln and all those guys, with McClellan, he did pull it together at Antietam. So if you're going to give McClellan credit for anything, is that he did, have these guys motivated and the morale was better. But I'm not sure Meade, and who knows, maybe he would have, how Meade would have been in that situation if he was the one who was taken. Burnside was actually picked to lead that army, and he said no.
And then he's picked after.
He says, go get McClellan. So you think about how Meade would have reacted if he was put in charge in September of 1862, how he would have reacted to because the Confederacy was starting to ride high. I think it would have been a different situation if you flip the two around. And I think, to your point, you got to give Hooker credit because he had that army ready to go, trained, ready to go at Gettysburg, and he got replaced because the whole Harper's Ferry soldier fiasco. But he ended up basically with a ready to go army. And I think there was that impression in Maryland that the Army of the Potomac was this juggernaut army. And it just wasn't. It was a complete mess, demoralized the whole deal. So if you're going to give McClellan credit for anything, besides his math skills that Mary has picked up on, it's been his ability, is getting everything ready to win what was a pretty big Antietam campaign.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like McClellan was very good at organizing, and he did raise the morale of the army. There was just something about him, but when it came to fighting, he just couldn't do it. And I think it goes back to, you look at him compared to U.S. Grant, and even Sherman too. Like they'd experienced so many failures in their life that they were just, I think because of that, they were just willing to be like, fuck this, we're doing it. McClellan didn't have that. He didn't want that on his shoulders. McClellan too is a Democrat, and he is not in any way an abolitionist at all. And I think that factored into the thinking as well. We have a few comments too.
Hooker was, to Jay Price's comment, he was right. He gets wounded in Antietam, and they wanted to get him back, and they liked him because he was aggressive, he was offensive, he could fight. And I think at that point, people realized the McClellan thing was written on the wall. And we'll talk more about this in the next podcast, maybe the next two. But I think when you look at the overall picture with that, again, we're so benefited by hindsight with this stuff. But
we are. The other thing we have too is the fact that Hooker had a very severe concussion. And concussions can mess with you mentally, like just after, for months, even years afterwards. And I think what had happened to him was he was not right because of that concussion.
I've always wondered, you hear these stories about these guys being drunk. That was always the excuse. How many drunk situations were actually concussions?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think Hooker, the effects of that concussion were sticking with him during the Gettysburg campaign. And he probably wasn't sleeping. He was probably having a lot of dizzy spells. He was probably in a lot of pain. But you see Hooker kind of come back to life again in the Western Theater with Lookout Mountain, where he becomes bold again, where Grant tells him, don't take Lookout Mountain. And Hooker's like, fuck that. I'm fucking taking this mountain. And he drives Bragg off of the mountain.
Yeah. And we'll never know what got into Hooker's head at Chancellorsville. Joe Hooker lost faith in Joe Hooker comments and what that was all about. He did manage to get them out of there before Lee was really going to lower the boom on him the next day. So, so as much as a big victory Chancellorsville was for the Confederacy, Lee looked at it as a loss because he lost more soldiers. He lost Jackson, and he let the army get away again. So, there's a lot of things. Like we said with all these podcasts we do, there's with any of these guys, there's the good, there's the bad, there's the ugly, every single one of them. And when you look at the overall, the big picture of perception, we talked about obviously Howard's perception, T.J. Jackson's perception, obviously any of those guys, Sickles' perception. I think there's a case to be made that every single one of these guys, they did what they felt was right at the right time.
Yep.
But again, when you have 100 and something years to focus on the mistakes they made, of course they're going to make mistakes.
Exactly. They're humans, right? And that's the thing. It's like, it's not fair to remember Howard for Chancellorsville when at Gettysburg for a period of time, he is in command of that field. He's got to stay in one place where people can find him. He can't be fucking riding around everywhere. And that's what people seem to think he should have been doing. But no, he's got to stay in one place.
Do you think if Buford didn't write that letter, how history might have been changed?
I think it might have been.
So Buford writes a letter to Meade basically stating there doesn't seem to be anybody in charge here.
Yeah.
You wonder how that would have played out if he didn't do that. Maybe Hooker is the hero of Gettysburg. Who knows?
Yeah,
I'm not Hooker. Howard.
Howard. Yeah, I think so. Like, I think Howard 100% called that fine piece of ass. I hate that I love Hancock. Don't get me wrong, but I don't like that he gets credit for that because it was Howard. But Howard too. I can't imagine how it would have felt. He's higher ranking than Hancock. Hancock coming to the field and being like, Dad likes me more, But Howard's credit, he was just, he was angry about it, but then he's like, okay, I'm going to work with this because we got to win. Like, he shoved those feelings aside.
Hey, you know who Hancock was at that time? He was that dude from the Pulp Fiction movie, the fixer at the end.
Yeah.
That's who he was. When you think about it, whenever they needed someone, they always picked Hooker. He was aggressive. That fantastic story. He takes over. Richardson gets injured at the sunken road. Must have been wet and slippery, probably. But they bring in Hooker. I keep saying
Howard.
Hancock. Too many H's.
Too many H's. I was just thinking that. Too many H's.
They bring in Hancock from the 6th Corps to kind of take over, and of course he rides in his horse like the conquering king.
Yeah.
And first thing he does is he pulls out his pistol and he's aiming it at the Union guys who are rifling the bodies of the Confederate dead, saying, "Well, I ain't doing that." He ends up being picked. Talk about a guy. Another example of that is he gets picked at Gettysburg. Sickles does what he does. He gets injured. He loses his leg and all that stuff. But Hooker, I keep saying Hooker, Hancock.
Too many H's. It's like the actually we had a comment from Jen just speaking of 3 H's. What did she say here? She's still waiting for the 30th Corps
the banner?
Still waiting for the 30th Corps flag to be XXX. That is going to become a bar someday in Rough and Ready.
Yeah. Or Hard Times, either one. But that's her point. Why they didn't make him in charge of the 30th Corps, we'll never know. Probably because Red Tube didn't exist back in 1862. It's probably why. But I think that would have been the best. They would have had a neon flag. It would have been flashing outside. He would have had Butterfield there all the time. Sickles would have been there. That would have been a good time. But I was always going back to Hancock. He does his job at Gettysburg on the second day. Sickles gets pounded, and he ends up having to take over the 3rd Corps as well.
Yeah. Yes.
And but before that, and I love this story with Hancock too, is he is the one who basically tells Gibbon to send him the 1st Minnesota.
Yep.
He says, go get the colors. He got, Colville's like, I got 9 guys here. He had more than 9, but I have no one. Go get Cadmus Wilcox, take the freaking colors.
Yeah. He
goes, they have 84% casualties. That's math, Mary. Okay. And so he goes and he does that. And he gets that 1st Minnesota gets completely wrecked. I love the fact that of all the animosity the 1st Minnesotans had against Hooker, against Hancock for that, I'm going to have a complex now against Hancock for that. Hancock shows up at the 1st Minnesota's reunion. Can you imagine the balls to show up at
that? That is just insane.
Right? And then he actually speaks. He addresses them, and he says, "You know what? I know you hate me, but you know what? I did what I had to do, and I would do it again."
And this is him. He's like, "Fuck you, guys."
He's like, exactly. You got to admire the guy. He got hurt at Gettysburg, and he lost his fastball, Ream Station, when Petersburg was his last battle, and all that stuff. But he ended up. He was the fixer. He was the go-to guy. So it's not a surprise that when he gets a letter from Buford stating there's no one in charge here, that he is going to be the guy who gets picked.
Yeah.
And he rides in.
Andrea, hook cock, too many jokes to be made.
Oh, there's probably a Tilly Pierce joke in there somewhere.
I was just thinking of some merch we could do where we have a T-shirt where we have Howard Hooker Hancock on it.
I think I'm wearing a Hook T-shirt, a Hookcock T-shirt.
Yeah, no, Howard Hooker Hancock
Yeah,
on it.
Pretty good idea.
We've got some really awesome comments here. So Hooker gave the locker room pep talk. Meade coached them to win. Absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Jen says, at Antietam, when Hooker was wounded, his soldiers actually sent a reporter to try to get him to come back to the field. That surprised me and always stuck with me. Yeah. And then after Hooker was wounded, Meade had to take over for him, which is like ultimate foreshadowing right there. And then Jen always thought of Hooker as the bumbling clown from Chancellorsville, but I read one account that said Hooker might have had a concussion at Chancellorsville, which explains a lot. Yeah, I really believe in the concussion thing with him, that he was just not right for a while. And finally, November of 1863, he's like, I'm back, and I'm going to take that mountain.
Yeah. He's in Chancellorsville. He's standing in front of his headquarters. Artillery shell goes off, hits the beam of the house he's standing on. It falls, hits him right in the head, just like a Three Stooges thing. Out. He's goofy for a while. People assumed he was drunk, and then it went from there. So these are the little things that get you, though. If you really think about how history could have changed on certain things.
Exactly. Like if Hooker had not got concussed, on Andrews, probably a lot of cases where the behavior was due to PTSD. Absolutely. Yeah.
We talked about Rufus Dawes last week. Talking about that with him.
Yep. And also I think Gibbon had a case of PTSD too, because there was a point in time, end of 1864, where like he had been with Hancock for so long, but then all of a sudden something happened. Yeah. And Gibbon went on leave, and it was not due to an injury. It was due to a falling out that he had with Hancock, but I'm pretty sure Gibbon had PTSD. And when he came back,
they all must have, though.
Oh, they're absolutely. Yeah. Oh, look at Andrea. She's praising my boy. No matter what Howard bungled during the war, he was a superstar with his work in the Freedmen's Bureau. I love you, Andrea.
Well, he did a lot of stuff, and like we were saying before, is when you look at, we're benefited by being on Twitter and reading these comments from these Civil War experts that we read about all the time. But I think when you really look into all these guys, especially Howard, you mentioned Howard, and people have their opinions. You mentioned Sickles, they have their opinions. You mentioned any of these guys, Robert E. Lee, have these opinions. Yeah. But when you really get into them, though, and you see what these guys are all about, Howard had a tough gig. He replaces Franz Siegel, a very popular guy in the German community and in his core. Yep. And he's this, he's this church going, religious, better than thou type person. Yep. And he was riding a horse who had a small marijuana problem.
Tony Montana.
Tony Montana.
But that ground looks like a fine piece of ass.
but he basically he takes over a corps who doesn't like him from day one. Yep. A corps who gets a bad reputation. First of all, there was less than 20% Germans. It wasn't like they were all Germans.
Exactly. Exactly.
And these are the guys who did fight well on the night of July 2nd. Samuel Carroll gets a lot of credit, but by then he kind of came in late, and a lot of that the Confederates had broken through twice, but they did a good job with that. So he gets a bad rap. And like we said before about Howard, if he's so bad, why is Sherman giving him the right wing?
Exactly.
That's the thing that people cannot answer. They can't answer that.
No, they can't. And somebody said to me on Twitter, they're like, "Oh, he only took over from Logan because Howard was a West Pointer." No, I think Sherman saw something in Howard. He's looking past Chancellorsville and all that. I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that Howard was a West Pointer. I think it had everything to do with the fact that Howard was a soldier. And Sherman chose, and Darren, you'll what's his face? Trudeau talks about this in Southern Storm. Oh my God, Robert E. B's back again. Fuck off. That Sherman chose those two because they were soldiers, and because he knew they would keep calm, cool, and collected in whatever situation faced them. Because you think about it, you're talking about on the March of the Sea, it's a gigantic land shark moving through Georgia, 60 miles wide.
Yep.
And you're going to have to make decisions on the fly. And Sherman trusted both those men to make decisions without him knowing that they might have to make, whether it be they've got to fight, or whatever.
I mean, a change of scenery probably. It's like when a football player goes from one team to another, and he sucks at one team and he's great on the other. A change of scenery probably helped Howard.
Yep.
And yeah, he had a bad situation obviously in the East, and at least in Chancellorsville, and stuck with him the entire time. But like I said, you can't make a case. You can't sit here and say Sherman is the greatest thing since canned beer, and then say Howard sucks, because it doesn't jive. It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
And you and I are both founding members of the Team OO Society, which we certainly are, right?
Yep.
And I think as you study more into him, you realize that he's somebody who probably gets he needs a lot more credit than due. He really does.
He does. And I think too, the thing with some of these generals is how they're viewed completely factors into the lost cause myth. So you look at someone like Jackson and Lee, completely lost cause is why they're so elevated. Mm-hmm. And you have two talented generals like Albert Sidney Johnson and Patrick Cleburne. Patrick Cleburne, he's an awkward figure when it comes to the history of the Confederacy. It's like, how do we make this guy who made an emancipation fit in with our history? We can't.
That's why.
Let's not talk about him.
He didn't toe the party line, and that was the thing too. And he didn't really know. Jen, yes, you need to make Uncle Blingy art. Absolutely. I will buy whatever you send for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So my friend Jen is an amazing artist. Mm-hmm. I got to hang out with her at Uncle Blingy's birthday in February. She's another soul sibling of mine for sure, and she makes some amazing art. And we are actually going to be having her do some stuff for us. So we're looking forward to that.
That Surratt t-shirt needs to happen, by the way.
Yeah. No, I'm going to get Jen to do something like that too. Jen Price said, slow internet helped Howard too. His reputation in the East didn't follow him to the West.
That's a good point. It definitely is. But I think, like we say many, many times, it's perception versus reality with these people. Yeah. It's just understanding. It's just the mainstream Civil War historian people, those people have a skewed idea, and a lot of it comes from the Coddingtons and the Fonzes and the Gelso, all those people we talk about, and that you can't blame it. That's how it.
No,
if you're reading that, if you don't have a vested interest into really detailing specific people, I think basically that's what you're going to come up with. That's perception. We see with a lot of these guys. We see it with with those dudes, and the same reason why you don't see the flaws in the Shermans or the Grants or the Lincolns or any of those people. And
you have to see those flaws to know them as people, I think. Like, for instance, like I fully have always believed that to get to know John Wilkes Booth is to understand Lincoln better.
Yeah,
like
times.
I've always wanted to know Booth as well as I know Lincoln, because you need to see it from that side to understand what happened. I 100% hate what he did, but he, like, you can't forget him, like
you cannot tell the story of Abraham Lincoln at 360 degrees without talking about John Wilkes Booth. You just can't do it.
And
you just
all the conspirators to understand where they're coming from with what they did. Just like you can't tell the story of the Civil War without knowing who Thomas Jackson was, without knowing who Lee was, without knowing who Patrick Cleburne was. Like, you need to see that side of it too. And I think it helps for me. Reading the biography about Patrick Cleburne helped me understand the lost cause more. When I read his biography, it's called Stonewall of the West, I came away with it thinking, this guy was the most talented one they had, and nobody talks about him. He was offensive, defensive, but he made mistakes too. Like Shiloh, he almost fucking gave away their position the night before. That's who Sherman heard. Or that's who one guy went to Sherman, and Sherman's like, take your damned regiment back to Ohio. It was Cleburne's men.
If you want to get a really good full view of the lost cause, you got to read Bonekemper and you got to read Freeman.
Yeah,
you got to read Bonekemper's The Myth of the Lost Cause, because it's on one spectrum, and you got to read the pure lost cause foolishness of Douglas Southall Freeman.
Exactly.
You've got to read Lee's Lieutenants. You got to read his biography on Lee. You've got to read all these guys because it gives you it's like two different wars. It's like two complete different experiences. But I mean, the truth's somewhere in between, obviously. But I think overall, when you look at the impact of what people think, what they thought when it was all over with, a lot of Virginians people wrote the history of the battle, so you see the skewed part of it. You see what Longstreet had to go through after the war. For flipping to the Republican Party afterwards.
Yep, and I think Patrick Cleburne would have been that way too. As a hardcore Confederate as he was, I think after the Civil War, he would have been with Longstreet and be like, dudes, we got to make this right again. And that's why his death is, I think, one of the more profound ones to happen with the Confederacy when he's killed at Franklin.
Well, I mean, you look at you want to talk about lost cause, right? They hate Longstreet. Okay, because he ended up with Grant, he ended up being all that, but they look past Mosby, which was a Confederate hero cavalry guy. He ended up being Grant's campaign manager.
Yep.
Flipped completely, but you don't hear a lot of shit against Mosby.
No.
As you do, you hear a lot of stuff again. And once you sift through this and really focus and read it, you kind of see the scoop and see what the hell's going on here.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Read it for yourself, but definitely read Bone Kemper's book, and definitely read the Freeman books, because it's something that it really it gives you a full gree about it too. A lot of these guys got screwed. It was all agendas. Longstreet got screwed. Sickles got screwed. Howard got screwed. They all did. And a lot of the sacred cows all get elevated.
Exactly.
Obviously, Stonewall Jackson, hallowed be thy name, Robert E. Lee, all these guys, and even Grant for that matter. He did too.
Very windy here.
It is.
Andrea said Stonewall of the West. Going to have to read that. Yeah, Andrea, it's one of the best biographies of a general I've ever read. There's no lost cause in it. The author's name is escaping my name. Author's name is escaping me right now.
Easy for you to say.
But it was really good, and it makes him so human. Like, the author talks about how Cleburne had a pet raccoon.
Yeah, Jen, guess who got to pick the names of the Zoom thing? It wasn't me, in case you're curious or comment.
What? Having a hard time finding books on webs that don't come out as pure. Oh, Andrew said, I'm having a hard time finding books on the webs that don't come out as pure hero worship. Honestly, that's why I've avoided reading about them. Yeah, a beer can just... There it goes. Luckily, it's empty. Andrea, Stonewall of the West is not at all hero worship. It just talks about who Cleburne was. And I thought it was the most balanced view of a Confederate I've ever read. Another one to read is about Lee. And it's actually a young adult book that is written by a lady I know. Her name's Brandon Marie Miller. And she tells Lee like it is. She uses his letters, stuff he wrote, and she puts it all on the table and basically says, this guy, fucking asshole, and this is how he felt about the slaves. It is an amazing biography about Lee. And she was really nice, and she sent me a copy to read when she released it, and I loved it. I will definitely tweet out the name of the book. And Andrew, I'll message it to you as well. So Simmons is the author of Stonewall of the West. Jen, just noticed Darren's screen name. LMAO. That's what happens when you're the fucking host and have the powers of Grayskull.
She's very mean. I told you she's got a dark side. This one, I'm telling you, she does. Behind that smile, there's pure evil. Trust me.
Amelia said, I think of Longstreet in the same way. His full support of Reconstruction took him out of the conversation entirely, except for characterizing him as a loser at Gettysburg. Absolutely. And you can see that in the amount of Longstreet statues there are. How many statues of Longstreet?
There's two, right?
There's one at Gettysburg. Just the two. There's one at Gettysburg. Same with Cleburne. There's two. Yeah. There's one in Arkansas, and there's one at Ringgold.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these, but Cleburne's a little bit different. The Longstreet ones, I mean, there's not a lot of Confederate monuments in the North anyway. Obviously, you're talking about Gettysburg, you talk about Antietam, you talk about maybe Monocacy, you're talking about, South Mountain. I mean, I think there are 30 Confederate monuments at Gettysburg compared to 1,300 in the north. And a lot of that is because, if it costs this much money to build these damn things, they want to put them in places where people are going to see them.
Yeah.
And, you got the one Florida monument at Gettysburg. There's no one they're thinking was how many people from Florida are going to come up to see these monuments. The Florida monument was built in 1963 because a state senator from Florida happened to be rolling through the battlefield and said, there's no Florida here.
Yep. And one of the most prominent monuments at Chickamauga is Florida.
Yeah. Well, Chickamauga, I mean, that makes sense because it's more, it's different. I mean, Florida only had 3 regiments at Gettysburg, so it makes sense. The 2nd, 3rd, and the 8th Florida. They only had the 3 in Lane's brigade, so there wasn't a lot of that. But again, the victors tell the stories, but you need two teams on a battlefield to tell the whole story.
Exactly.
But to your point, Claiborne does get screwed. He really does. And a lot of that is because the people in the South don't really like Claiborne.
No, they don't. And yet he was this guy who he treated men from the Union so respectfully. Like there was a time where a Union officer had been captured, and some of Claiborne's soldiers brought him and said, this guy's got food in his pockets, make him give it to us. And Claiborne looked at the guy and he was like, sir, would you like to give my men your food, or would you like to keep it? And the guy said, if it's all the same to you, I would really like to keep my food. And Claiborne's like, then you can keep your food. And he told his men, you don't fucking touch him. And then there was another time where some of his men had, they'd stolen all these apples out of an apple orchard. And Claiborne came upon them and he's like, what are you guys doing? They're like, we're picking apples. He's like, good. You can bring them all over to the road. And all the men and the rest of his army was marching by, the men had to hand out all the apples to them. And Claiborne just kind of sat back and he's like, you fuckers don't do this shit.
Andrea, Florida sucks. Meth gators and face eaters. Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
I agree, Andrea.
Since the Pats are playing the Dolphins today, I tend to agree with that more today than any other day. So
fucking hope they go down. Andrea said Mary Custis had a lot to do with how Lee turned out. Yeah, I completely agree. And I love that the Union seized Arlington. Fucking love that.
Oh, that's one of the coolest.
Fuck you ever.
One of the coolest stories was what they did to that house. And
the
cemetery all the way through there. And what's so funny is I know you visit Arlington, as have I, and a lot of people have. A lot of people don't realize the story behind the Arlington National Cemetery.
Yep.
And where the history of that is. And it's a cool, in your face, dick in the dirt story. It is.
The coolest thing about it is there's 2 graves right near Arlington House, Gibbons and Sheridan's.
Uh-huh.
Sheridan is right in front of Arlington, and it's like I can just see Sheridan being like, fuck you, Lee. But then Sheridan's got this amazing view right over to the Lincoln Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
And all his grave says on it is Sheridan, which tells you exactly who Sheridan was.
Well, I thought maybe Warren came up with that gravesite idea,
the two of them, oh my God, 2 big egos together. They hated each other.
Well, I went to go visit. G.K. Warren is buried in Newport, Rhode Island, which is about an hour from where I live here. So it's like stone's throw.
I have to say, I'm Team Warren, despite what a bastard he was. I love Warren.
But I know what kind of going. I don't know what the agenda with this whole thing was, but it's kind of going off in agenda tangent. But anyway,
what to do with this, right?
I know. So Warren gets completely boned by Sheridan, and he's out of the army. He's so pissed he dies. They don't bury him in a military uniform.
Nope. God.
So he whipped to the max. Jesus God.
Yeah.
But again, the problem with Pike is that she beats around the bush too much. I said it too many times. She needs to be more direct in what she's saying.
God, she's my girl.
She's awesome.
Her and the 2 Jens. That's
Andrea is awesome because she is. But second of all, she got me banned from a Facebook Gettysburg Serious site because I liked one of her posts that she got banned on. So we're talking about friendly fire. Holy moly.
Oh my God, you're so Jackson in that situation.
She knows the story behind that one.
Yeah, you got Jackson.
Because I totally took a hit for that. Whatever.
Got Jackson.
So Warren is so pissed. He doesn't get buried in a military uniform. He gets buried in a civilian uniform, and his grave is impossible to find. it took me for, and thank God for findagrave.com with a GPS, because I never would have found that. And he's buried in a corner with a bunch of random people, and it just says Governor Kimball Warren, U.S. Army General, and you wouldn't even know it. And that out of all the, because I like to go to the cemeteries and look for the graves, because that's
me too.
I am so. But out of all the ones I've found, he's even harder than Mary Surratt's grave. And that's saying something. That says a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
No, Warren, like Chamberlain is a hero of Gettysburg, but Warren is the other hero of Gettysburg too, the unsung hero, because he got up in Little Round Top, and what are you giggling at?
Just in his
Malcolm
Conway.
Weeks. Isn't he
that's like sucked
I'm
glad. Whatever. I'm glad she did me a favor on that one. Actually, she really did.
Yeah, Weeks is such a bastard sometimes.
I get that a lot. That's my gravestone. Darren Weeks, killed at Gettysburg, is a bastard at times.
And then he's like, the other thing is going to be fucker.
Oh. Out of all the nicknames I have, that's my favorite one, Mary. Thank you for that again. It's almost as good as Tattoo Diva Bitch. Close, but not, it's pretty good. Well done. Well done.
Or Dingus.
Well done by you.
Dingus.
Oh, God, here we go.
So Warren, Meade is putting out all the big fires at Gettysburg on day 2. And Warren is going around finding the smoke. So he goes up in the round tops, and he finds the smoke, and he's, again, has this, this is a fine piece of ass. We need to get this covered moment.
Are you getting paid to say that in this? Are you sponsored by someone to say that quote? That he did 100 times?
Sponsored by Red Tube.
Wow. I have to watch a Patriot game after this, okay? Oh, yeah.
God. Andrea said, Jen's left. I read an interesting book about Grant Lee, Crucible of Command. I've heard of that one. Side-by-side comparison of the two, and fairly written, I think. Yeah, Andrea, I've been wanting to read that one for a while. So Andrea gets the kudos for book enabling Mary today.
Yeah, look at that, huh? Bet you don't blame her, though.
No, I love Andrea.
Wow, okay. So.
Oh my God, these guys are great to have on with us.
Oh, they're the best. The Jens and Andrew are the best. Everybody is.
Jens. The Jens.
J squared.
Yeah, that's what we'll call them, J squares.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We'll probably should jump off soon.
I was going to say,
although this has been the best Facebook Live ever.
It's always fun to do, but I think it's always fun to get people talking and enjoying this, and just get an idea of what the I'm just understanding who these people in this crazy American Civil War are, to just understand the whole story behind them.
Yeah.
General, go Pats, go! Good for her, Jen.
Yep. Andrea, you complete me, Mary. Me too, girl.
Oh, good Lord.
Jen Price, book enabling is a team effort.
And that is true. That is true. I think that, we should all be getting residuals from Amazon at this point. I think that should be a good thing.
Yep.
So we should probably jump off. It's almost time to get ready for some football.
Yeah,
here.
We got to get ready to watch some New England Patriots.
Hell yeah, it's about time for the Patriots to work on
I'm wearing
banner
my fucking
number
Packers
7.
jersey.
So if you squint just enough, it looks like a 12 Brady jersey. That's what I said the other night. So same deal. Wow. God. Anyway, yeah, she said it's go Pats go. She's right. That's what she keeps saying,
Hashtag Team Gen Squared. Yes.
I like that. I like the General awesome. Too. The General's a cool nickname.
It is.
Team Gen Squared. I like that.
Oh my God.
So. See, Andrew, Weeks, you're right, I guess. Yeah, I get that.
Andrea, don't tell him that. Don't.
I get that. I get that never. I get that never. So that's pretty cool.
Do not tell him he's right. Ever. I made that mistake. I've lost count. I was keeping scratch marks on my wall. How many times I told him he's right? I stopped.
It does happen. It has happened before.
It has happened before.
Yeah.
We won tonight. We won last night. We won tonight. If we win tomorrow, that's called a winning streak. It has happened before.
So football today. Andrea mentions college basketball family. U of L, go Cards. Okay. Right. Rick Pitino. I think Pitino's still the coach there, isn't he? I don't know. I know I've kind of fall, but anyway, so probably a good jumping off point as I am out of Shipyard Smash Pumpkin.
And I just finished my second beer. It's 12
seconds. Oh, okay, sure. Okay.
Well, the
See,
first one I had was when we were having fucking merry technical difficulties.
And Jen shows her McClellan counting skills again by saying she has her second beer today. As you heard your 48 cans roll a few minutes ago from the wind.
Just call me Jen.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. I was reading the comments.
Jesus Christ.
God, there's too many Jens.
Jen squared, general.
But yeah, okay. We'll go with the second beer thing. But
was my second beer.
Okay.
And I have to have more now because of you.
Well, that's why I got my nickname that I have, my tattooed diva bitch.
That's right.
You need to give me controls of the Zoom sometime.
Absolutely fucking not.
There are about 87 nicknames like, off the top of my head I could hit right now, but that's okay. Freaking Mary, but that's okay. All right, so let's give a teaser to our next podcast. So we are going to be talking about the Maryland campaign, and we decided while Mary was fumbling through the technology about an hour ago that we're probably going to do 2 episodes for this. We're going to talk about the lead-in to the Maryland campaign, which is going to cover the political situation in McClellan. We're going to talk about South Mountain. We're going to talk about right up to the point of Antietam, and then we're going to talk about the following week. We're going to talk about Antietam. So hopefully you tune in. We'll do a Facebook Live next Saturday. 10, right?
Saturday at 10. We will be doing another Facebook Live. Actually, I'm wondering if maybe we should aim for around 10:30. Maybe.
Yeah, whatever. Your call. You're the boss. So.
I'm not the fucking boss.
You control the nickname, so I assume you're the boss.
I kind of am because I'm younger than you, so I'm like,
you're
like Sherman.
God, my sound just went out. Okay, I don't. It's foolishness coming through my speaker here. You are younger than Aaron Rodgers, right? Or older than Aaron Rodgers, right?
I am.
This is where I get my ass in trouble right now, so I'm going to stop talking. So, so we'll basically we'll drop it here. So next week we will talk about Maryland.
Actually, we're not on Facebook Live anymore. It dropped.
Ooh, okay, it's just us then.
Yep.
Look at you go, Mary. Oh my God.
I didn't do anything. It just dropped. Oh, there, we're back live again.
We're back again?
Yep.
Okay. So once again, Mary's in charge of the technology as we dropped off. But we were going to finish up anyway. So
Ghost.
It's close to McClellan. All right. So like we said, we're going to do a little Maryland next week. Darren is Queen Elsa. Oh, okay. You need, Andrea, I will tell you right now, you need to let it go about the Queen Elsa comments. I'll leave it at that.
Andrea completes me too.
We need some guy. We need too much girl power in this. I need Bill to sign on and hook me up here a little bit. I'm at a disadvantage, I think. Anyway, so hey, Mary, it's great to see you today. I'm sure we'll talk to you throughout the football game. We'll have fun with that. And we will talk next week about Maryland, my Maryland.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. These Facebook Lives, we didn't know how they would go, but this one, sometimes we're probably going to have some that are just 20 minutes, but this one, was awesome. You guys are great, especially to Jen Squared and Andrea. Y'all rock.
Absolutely.
Love the discussion. This is exactly how we wanted these Facebook Lives to go. So we will be back with you next Saturday, probably around 10:30ish or so.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about a fantastic Patriots victory and a Packers victory probably too. That's okay. We'll talk about both. But anyway, thanks for watching. We appreciate it, everyone, even Andrea.
Yep.
And we will definitely look forward to talking to you soon. And Mary, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, Darren. And to Andrea and Jen Squared, I love y'all. You're awesome.
Okay. We will talk to you soon and have a great Sunday. Have a great week. And we shall talk to you soon. And make sure you watch the podcast that we're going to film on Tuesday that is going to drop on on Saturday. Hey, real quick, we should talk about our cameo that's coming up tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
right?
we are gonna be on Addressing Gettysburg.
Oh my God, big time. We are going to be on the Addressing Gettysburg podcast tomorrow. I'm not sure when Matt drops that, but you can look forward to seeing or hearing us. I'm not sure if it's video, but we will definitely do that as well. But in any case, let's have a great weekend. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and go Patriots and go whatever team you're following, unless it's the Jets. And we will look forward to talking to you soon.
See you guys.
Bye. Peace out. We back?